And that final topic is our top 5 guilty pleasure board games, which I think is going to drastically be different for all of us. So
sure.
George kind of brought this up, and I had been wanting to do like a top 5 classic board games, which kind of is, at this point, guilty pleasures for most people, because a lot of people hate classic board games, especially in the board gaming community, I would say.
That's true. They do get a poor reputation.
Yeah. I mean, just because, what are you comparing it to? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different things you can interpret guilty pleasures as, such as, tell us, George.
Okay. So in this one, I was thinking these are games that you enjoy, even though the majority of people pan these games. They don't like them. Other people hate these games, but you enjoy them. That would be one sort of guilty pleasure. Another one might be that it's a game that you make people play because you enjoy it. Yeah. But you can see that they're not actually enjoying this game.
But you don't care because it's so good.
So you feel a little guilty about that.
Yeah.
Just based on that one, I'm putting one in here on my honorable mentions.
Nice. And then you actually came up with another really good definition of a guilty pleasure, which I hadn't been thinking of, but it's like you had said it could be something like Tanto Cuore or something, where it's like, wow, the theme of this game.
I'm not a pervert, I swear.
I do not feel this way about household help, or whatever. Whatever it might be, like you feel guilty playing the game because there's something about the game that is personally offensive.
Yeah, or other right. Or other people are just gonna not understand. They're like, why do you like this?
That's right.
Yeah. All right, cool. Who wants to start? I'll start.
All right.
No, okay,
ahead.
Sure.
Nope, me.
Go ahead, Eric.
All right, number 5, I put, which I actually didn't look at the ratings for these, and this first one is probably rated decently high.
I guess it is worth mentioning that Eric last minute came.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yes, he didn't have his 5, so he just whipped them out.
I did. I whipped it out. So, the first one for me is Sentinels of the Multiverse. This is a game that is a cooperative game. It's not really a deck builder. You do get a deck of cards. You're going through it, and you're basically choosing one of these characters and fighting like a mastermind, and that's going to be at a specific location. Yeah. We played it a couple times. The people I've played it with haven't really enjoyed it, but I still want to kind of delve a little bit deeper. I haven't finalized my thought on the game, whether I like it a lot or I don't. Other people came to that conclusion a little bit faster, but I wouldn't mind trying it more.
That's fair. Yeah, that definitely falls in the when you said that, I was like, that totally falls in line with what he was saying. Like,
yeah,
everyone else hates it, but I'm gonna make you play it.
Right? Yeah.
Not that you make us play it, but we entertain you sometimes with
which I think some of the times we've played it at 3 players, and I believe it's really meant for like a 4-player
probably
a game.
You know what? But I think you and I played it 2 players. And I enjoyed it quite a bit more.
And I think we did 2 players
because we did 2
players each.
Yes, we each had 2 characters.
Characters each.
So you'd have more to do in that case.
Exactly.
That is a game where you feel like you don't have a whole lot to do.
On my turn, card.
Blanc. Yeah.
Amazing. Oh, it got destroyed.
Exactly.
Oh, that was amazing.
And on top of that, it's so fiddly, and then you have to read the text on all the cards and know what's going on. Oh man.
Right.
I'm with you on that one. I'm not a fan.
Not a fan.
But there are people who love that game.
Oh yeah, there are.
Right.
Yeah. Who haven't played any other games.
Well, I can also say that depending on how you set it out, some things don't work well against other things. Like you don't want to take this particular superhero into this villain, because that villain is a hard counter. Yeah. So if you play that superhero against that villain, your playthrough is not going to be so good.
Yeah, and you kind of have to really get deep into the game to
know which ones to bring.
Yeah, and not everyone's going to do that.
Exactly.
My number 5 is the G.I. Joe trading card game.
I didn't even know there was.
This game was terrible. It was so fun though. You basically build a deck of cards, and then you flip out. I can't remember. It's like, I didn't even bother to look up the rules, but I'm going to butcher it. But basically, you flip out 2 rows of characters, and I think it's like 4 or 5 across, and then the same for the back row. And so it's so random because I think your deck has like 30 or 40 cards and you only flip out like 8 or 10, and then you fight each other and the way the mechanics work out. But it's just like a random fest. And when this came out, we loved it. It was just so much fun. Everyone hated it. It got it got bad reviews. It got terrible reviews. They canceled it like the first expansion came out, and it just died immediately. And so the expansion was out for like 2 seconds, and the game got canceled. And I don't know, it made me sad, but everybody else is like good. So
now, did you like it in part because of the theme? Like, are you a G.I. Joe?
Yeah, I like G.I. Joe. That's probably most of it. Yeah.
Okay.
I like G.I. Joe a lot. And then, I don't know, I just thought it was kind of fun and just nonchalant. It was a very quick game. I mean, I think it was like under 10 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So it's really hard to like hate a game that has like low mechanics. Just, it basically is glorified war. I mean,
right.
But you got like 10 guys. So like I don't even remember the mechanisms, but I mean, it worked okay.
Yeah, don't justify yourself. Okay.
Yeah. You played it as a kid.
We'll play it. Play it. No, actually, this was like...
Oh, never mind.
This was not as a kid.
Okay.
I think this was like maybe 2006.
Okay, never mind.
You should have done better.
Yeah.
I think it was 2008.
It sounds like it definitely qualifies as a guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
That's great. All right, so my number 5 is a game that... Actually, there's another reason to have a guilty pleasure about a game that I just didn't realize now that I've looked at my list. It's called Evil Spares None, which I think is a tremendous title, first of all. But the reason I have such a guilt when I play this game is it was a Kickstarter. And it's a slasher movie kind of Kickstarter where you have characters that run around and there's a killer and he's trying to hunt you down and it's the mechanisms are actually really clever, and the art is fantastic and they're well done, and there's a lot of humor. And the guy who made it, like, he even went on and made like newspaper clippings, and he did like some radio plays about it and everything. Like, he was like into it, right? And I appreciate all that. I'm so guilty playing this game because he made like 20 of them, and he was supposed to make several thousand.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was a failed Kickstarter. I actually ended up getting a copy, probably because my last name starts with a B.
Look at you.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
Yeah.
And so I enjoy playing it, but every time I just feel like, oh.
Yeah.
That's kind of an interesting guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
Because I'm playing one of the only copies in existence.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's actually a pretty good game.
It actually is a pretty good game. I do enjoy it.
Huh.
But then again, I house rule things, so
I
I play with some house rules.
better.
I did make it better, but it's very playable and enjoyable. We should play it.
Okay, cool.
Halloween kind of game.
Now that Halloween just passed.
Yeah.
And I'll feel guilty when we play it.
All right, next one for me is Chopstick Dexterity Challenge 2000, I think is the name of it.
Mega challenge to... We're going to look this up.
Anyhow,
It is
a game where you have a bowl, you have chopsticks.
Chopstick Dexterity Mega Challenge 3000.
3000.
It's 1,000 times better than what you thought.
I'm not saying this is a good game, but every time we played it, lots of laughter has pursued, and it is a fun way to pass some time.
Yeah.
It's laugh for about 10 seconds, and you're like,
super
oh
silly.
my gosh, why are we playing this?
It's kind of cool to you have chopsticks and you're vying for that last shrimp or whatever.
Yeah.
And sometimes it falls on the ground and you're like on the ground trying to get it.
How do you play? Do you play where you can hit each other's chopsticks together, or no? That's just beyond the pale.
We've played it like if your chopsticks are touching.
Yeah.
You
can, like,
right.
How you,
Like
it gets really hard.
Yeah.
You're like you have to like shoot it off somewhere and like
Jeez.
that's
it gets
ridiculous.
physical.
I hate this
Funny.
game. I hate it.
It's basically a martial arts.
It is.
Fight
It's,
at that point.
I mean, you might as well just start punching each other at some point. My number 4 is probably hate it just because it has a low rating and it was mass market, or at least sold in Walmarts and stuff. It's the Fruit Ninja card game.
Oh,
That wasn't too bad.
Yeah. Have you played it?
no.
Yeah. So basically, the way it works is we have a deck of cards, and it comes in like the same thing as like Monopoly Deal and
Okay.
like Scrabble Word Slam, or like all
Yeah.
those like little small packs of cards.
Right.
It was sold in the same kind of line as that. And what happens is you have a deck of cards, And on the bottom, obviously, on the tops, it's all the Fruit Ninja logo. And the actual card is either, no, I take that back. There are, God, it's been a while. The tops of the cards are green, yellow, and red. And what happens is, the bottom of the card has fruit on it.
Yeah.
And so you shuffle the deck and then you cut the fruit in half. So you cut the deck in half.
Okay.
And you either pick the bottom card of the top half or the top card of the bottom half.
Yeah.
So you don't get to see what cards you're selecting, but when you split the deck in half, you get 2 cards basically to choose from.
Okay.
And it's going to be a color difficulty, either green, yellow, red. And what that means is when you flip over a card, it's going to give you fruit. So the greens will only give you 1 fruit, but there's almost no chance of bombs. In yellow, it's kind of like you get, I think it's like 2 fruits.
Okay.
Or 3, I think it's 3 fruit.
Yeah.
And there's more chance of bombs. And in the red, there's 5 fruit and a lot of chance of bombs.
Yeah.
And so you choose what you want. And then you flip it over. And if it's not bombs, you add it to your you stash it and if you bomb out, you bust for the round. Right? And you don't get anything. Otherwise, you could say, do I want to push my luck? And then you take the rest of the deck and you split it in half. So you keep cutting the deck like it's a thing of fruit in Fruit Ninja.
That actually sounds pretty fun.
Yeah, and then so you get another card, you keep going, and eventually you either bomb out, or you can say, I'm stopping, and you bank all the fruit that you got.
Yeah.
And you win if you get, like, I think, 1 of each type of fruit. There's like 10 fruits or something, or if you get like 25 pieces of fruit among all your fruit or something. And there's like bananas, and they give you special powers and stuff. But
Okay.
it's got like a 5.5, and I'm like,
That's not high.
It does
No.
not deserve that.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think it's like at least a 6.5.
No, it's
I'm not saying it's
decent.
a great game, but it
6.5
is a
is
really
pretty
fun
high, though.
filler.
For a Fruit Ninja game. Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll give it a shot. I'll
Cool.
give it a shot. Yeah. Cool. My number 4 is
Oh,
called...
real quick, and
Yeah.
you can pretty much play it with indefinite amount of players because it's that zombie dice kind of mechanic. Because once somebody breaks the winning condition, you play to the end of the round, and then whoever has the most wins.
Okay.
So you can play it with like 15 people.
Well, could you just get a couple decks and put them together?
I don't know mathematically if that would work. I mean, I guess it would because everybody's playing the same odds.
You couldn't play with any number of people because the cards come out of the deck when you collect them, right?
That's a fair point.
So...
That's a fair point. But I've never really played it more than 3, so I don't know.
Okay.
That's a fair point.
I think you get 2 decks and just smash them together.
Yeah.
Okay. So my number 4 guilty pleasure is a game that is rated a 5.5. A lot of people dislike it, apparently. I rather enjoy it, and it is a very risk-like game, which is probably why people don't like it. It's called World Conquerors, and it's a game just incredibly like Risk. You have a map of the world and you have armies that move around, whatever. But it solves all the problems that Risk has, where each time it's your turn, you start off with a massive army and then you move around and take over
Conquer.
a lot of the world, just like Risk. But then at the end, you don't have that massive army anymore, and the other person's going to get a massive army. And so it just kind of like ebbs and flows back and forth.
It's like Risk Endgame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But everyone gets to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And there are these leaders that you can have, and if you roll a 4, like it's dice, there's dice involved, whatever. But if you roll a 4, they just die. Your leader dies because 4 is an unlucky number in China or whatever. So I don't know, it's just got like these crazy wonky rules, but it's very fun, and it goes fast, and it's Risk without the problems Risk has, and I like it.
It's called what is it called? Conqueror?
World Conquerors.
Interesting.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Next game for me is Rattle Battle Grab the Loot. Another game that's
Great choice.
Yes, good choice. We only played it one time actually, but and the first time you play it, it is more of a tutorial game where it kind of has a story arc to it, and I believe that the rest of the game is not. This doesn't actually play like your first game.
Not scripted.
But the first game was actually pretty enjoyable, and the pieces are nice. But it is rated pretty low. But
everybody gives this game so much flack. I thought it was pretty fun too. Yeah,
nah, I didn't mind it, and I thought it was a pretty decent experience. So, if you haven't tried it out, it like I said, it's rated pretty low, but I had a good time playing it.
Cool. My number 3 is Phase 10, the dice game, which has a terrible rating. I think it's like a 5.4 or something. here's the thing. It's really fun. So it's like Yahtzee, but what happens is you have a list of 10 phases that you need to get through. And you kind of just remember what phase you're on or whatever. And it's like get 3 of a kind or get 2 pair or whatever. So you got like, I think 6, I think there's 10 dice. 6 of them have all the high numbers, and the last 4 have all the low numbers in the wilds. And then all of them have an equal amount of all the different colors. Each side's a different color. And so you roll Yahtzee roll. You roll 3 times, keep what you want in between each roll, and you're trying to get equal or exceed whatever the phase is. Yeah. And if you pass it, you're done. You're past the dice, and the first person to finish the 10th phase wins. It is definitely similar in idea of what phase 10 the card game is, but that one's crap. But like this is actually decently fun, but everybody gives it crap, I think mostly because of its name.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah, I actually kind of enjoy the dice game. Like there's 10 phases and it's called phase 10 the dice game, but it's not phase 10. Like phase 10 is like you're drawing cards and it's just almost like a luck fest of what you get. And I'm pretty sure you can screw each other over in that game. I don't remember. And this one it's like solitaire.
It's guilt by association.
Yeah, exactly. This one's just a solitaire race, because it's, you know, on my turn I roll, nothing you can do. Okay, I'm on the next phase, your turn. All right, you're 1 phase behind, whatever. So,
yeah.
I like it quite a bit.
So for those that like phase 10, there is a card game called Shanghai that you might want to try. It has a lot of the same principles where you're going over many phases, but you're doing it at the same time.
There's people that like phase 10.
No, I guess I'm sure there's some.
They're probably the same group that likes skip boat. No.
Yes.
There are people that like that one.
That's fair.
All right. My number 3 is Moby Dick, or the card game, which is already funny because Moby Dick, the book is Moby Dick or the Whale. And so they did Moby Dick or the card game. And this is a Kickstarter as well.
Such a dumb name. I love it.
Yeah, it's great. And you could tell that these people, they know this novel inside and out, and they put so much care into this game, and they did such a wonderful job with all the art. It's all like lithographs or something. I don't know. It's just it's amazing, the art of this game. And there's story, there's like events that happen that match the book almost perfectly. It's just you're playing the book. But the problem is the game as a game, there's just not enough oil in the economy of going out and trying to hunt these whales. And so you just can't get enough oil to get the things that you need. and you're supposed to be buying these sailors with the oil, and you're just frustrated the entire game. And then eventually somebody is going to have the most, and that person gets to go up against Moby Dick, the white whale, and everyone else doesn't.
Oh, wow.
So, but the person who goes up against them, they're going to go fight the white whale, and they are going to die. Like,
this is nothing you can do.
You're not gonna beat them. They're just the whole game. You haven't gotten enough stuff. There's no way you're powerful enough to take him on, and so he's gonna beat you. And it's just so frustrating that people hate this game. But the fact is, like, it's so true to the book. Like, you know, if you go up against the white whale, you are doomed. That's the whole point. So it's fantastic.
It's thematic to a fault.
Yes, it is the most thematic game that I have, just about, and I love it.
Nice.
Huh, cool.
That's interesting.
That sounds funny.
All right, next game for me is called Snorta. It's a game where you are getting these animal types, and you're going around the table, and you give them a sound.
Like what?
Like meow or hiss
Oh,
or whatever for a cat. You know, you make that sound.
I was expecting more. I was expecting more from you, Eric.
Hey, not to derail you.
Yeah.
I have a kids CD in my car.
Mm-hmm.
It's by this group called the Cedarmont Kids, and they sing, and there's a song where it repeats animal noises.
Oh, God.
And they say, like, one of the animals, I think it's like not a pig or something, but it's one of the normal farm animals, says chimichuck, chimichuck. And ever since I heard that, like, next time I play Snorta, I'm using it.
Chimichuck.
Yeah. And the
hilarious.
snake says hissy, hissy. Like this song, every time I hear it, I'm like, oh my God, this is like unfortunately good ideas for Snorta.
Right.
What does the fox say?
Yeah.
So you can give it, maybe things that are off the norm sounds, but that is actually the fun of it. And people have to remember the exact sound that you gave your animal. You put that behind a barn or within a barn so no one else can see it. And everybody gets a stack of cards. And you're flipping out cards until you have a match with somebody else. Once you have a match with somebody else, you try to make the sound of their animal that's hidden in their barn, not of the animal that you have matched. So, you can match with pigs, but they have a cat in there.
Which is
kind
of like the Stroop effect again.
Right.
Yeah.
So, it's always, when we bust it out, there's some grumbles. But as we're playing the game, it's always fun, and we have a lot of laughs. So,
Yeah.
that's what's number 2.
It's so ridiculous that it's fun. I don't know. It's so ridiculous. I end up buying it.
Yeah.
It's weird, but
I think it might suffer from the children's game effect on
Yeah.
Board Game Geek, where it's just sort of given a bad score because it's silly.
It's a kid's
Yeah.
game.
It's for
Yeah.
kids. Yeah.
Disappointed in the second edition,
Mm-hmm.
but
Wait, of Snorta?
yeah.
Storm came out with
It's
the
all
second edition.
cards.
Yeah, all
Oh.
cards, no actual
3D.
Oh, that
3D
is a shame.
miniatures.
Yeah.
Well, need
Or barns, I guess.
a 3D printer. Solve that problem.
That's true, Eric.
Yeah.
Shelf. My number 2 is Food Fight by Cryptozoic. This is a game that everyone really hates. I actually enjoy it quite a bit, although I have to pull a George here and say I do house rule some things. Have you played it?
I have not.
Well, it's
I'd probably hate it.
well, not with the house rules. So you there's a drafting phase in which you draft all these different cards, and then there's these battlefields that you're fighting at, and they're like got a bunch of punny names or whatever. And in the original rules, you end up with your 5 guys that you drafted, and you get to assign them to the different battlefields. Or actually, you might have 10 or something. I think you have 10. You assign them to different battlefields in piles, and you put tokens on them to show that which fight they're going to take place in, like lunch, dinner, or breakfast, lunch, or dinner. The problem is in the original rules, once you reveal, when you reveal what fight they're going at, you shuffle your cards, and so you can't put them in any kind of strategic order, where you're thinking maybe people are going to put their strongest first and second, because it's ended up being a trick taking game where everybody at that battle flips over their top card, and whoever has the highest strength wins. And so if you don't get to choose that, then it ends up becoming like just a random thing. Like we shuffle and maybe my 10 goes against your 1, stuff like that. So it's really irritating. If you house roll it to where you can set the cards the way you want, it's a much better game. But for some reason, no one likes it. So I enjoy it.
Okay. I would try it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Friday. No,
Right.
Okay, we have a plan.
I think it's 6 players though. That would work out for this Friday.
Hey, all right.
Yeah.
So my number 2 is a game that is rated at 5.5 on the Geek average. Sadly, I think. This is a game that is a roll and write.
Oh, really?
Not a roll and write. Wow, that's so common now that it just came right
Right.
out. A roll and move. It's a roll and move.
Oh.
Gotcha.
Right? Which people don't like. But this one is the best of them. It's called Castle of Magic. And it is from 1991.
No?
So
Old school.
And you roll and you move these old school pawns around this board that is the plainest looking like squares around a square that you can imagine. And there's 3 levels to it.
You're not making this sound good.
No.
All right, go ahead.
No, and you have these cards that are handed out that are like, I mean, they're made out of construction paper or something, right? I mean, this is just the chintziest game you've ever seen. But you get a faction. So they are, just let me get this right. There's a monster that's lurking within Castle Bondi. And the rulers of 3 neighboring countries have journeyed to the castle to vanquish the monster, but were themselves devoured. So they've lost their 3 items of power, which are a crown, an amulet, and a scepter. So you and your companions, all the players in the game, are going there to regain those items and cast a spell that will either banish the monster forever or make it a slave to yourself. So you also come from one of the 3 countries, either Maris, Kita, or Sorrel. And as you play the game, you're trying to recover those items, right? And you're trying to find out what the combination of these three things is to cast the ritual spell. Whatever you decide they are, there's a book that's either going to be open or shut. There's a candle that's going to be either lit or blown out. And there's a bell that's either going to be ringing or silent. And you just decide to put three of those things together. Well, you're supposed to be figuring it out,
Right.
like what the outcome will be. But as you do this, you cast the spell, there's 8 possible outcomes of those three things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they will determine whether it becomes your slave or whether it gets banished forever. And you have, according to all of those factors, where you're from, who you're allied with, what, kind of a wizard you are, whatever, you want one of those things to happen, and you get points based on which of those things happen. And you get more points if you get it perfectly the way you want, or you get less points if you get something else. And so you can kind of work together because you figure out, well, this wizard kind of wants the candle to be lit, and I want the candle to be lit, but he wants the book to be closed, and I want it to be open, but maybe it'd be okay if it was open. It wouldn't, like you form these crazy alliances, and at the end of the game, something happens, and you find out if you get eaten by the monster, or you banish it, or it becomes your slave, or whatever, and it's hilarious. It's amazing.
Does no one like it or something? Or
I don't think people know about it, or they don't have the patience to roll and move around the 3 levels of board to get to the monster.
The roll and move immediately makes it. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
it immediately destroys it.
But it's such a good game. Like if you just, if you really get into the theme of it and take your time with it, like accept that it's going to be a long game, it's amazing. And you can house rule it to make it a little faster too. So
Right.
Fair enough.
Castle Magic, guilty pleasure. I like it. Other people don't.
Fair enough. Any honorable mentions, Eric?
I just got the one. It's called God Dice. So this is a game that Tim usually doesn't like to play. I got him to play it a couple times.
It's broke.
It is broke a little bit. I guess you could take the paladin and
win.
That gives you
The hero or
easier win.
It is the paladin, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. He has it's like Yahtzee, but each character has different combinations, and he just happens to have all the ones you roll.
He's the easiest to hit off every time.
Yeah, and the hero, because he only needs 2 symbols to do like a decent amount of damage for the ratio.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but yeah, I didn't mind it.
Oh, I mean, I own it, so
you've kept it.
I bought it at some point. Yeah. Well, speaking of that, Eric, my one honorable mention I did add in here is Thebes. But that's only because you all don't like it.
Right.
It's
Except
a tremendous
George
game.
likes it, so it's amazing. We're going to play it again.
Absolutely.
If you like sand. Pulling out a bag.
I do like sand.
Bags of sand.
It's definitely like you go around and try to build yourself up so you can pull a lot more from the bag, and then some people benefit more than others.
Right.
I put Yahtzee on here just because I've talked about it in the past in our guilty pleasures thing. It wasn't necessarily board game related. But the actual one that I had on here is Splash, because I hate spoons, but I like Splash, but I still hate spoons. So I'm conflicted if it's a guilty pleasure or if I just like to grab squeaky dolphins. I don't know. It's like
wait. I know what spoons is. I don't know what Splash is.
It's spoons to a T. But there's no spoons. There's squeaky dolphins that go.
So when you grab them, you squeak them in triumph.
Yeah, you taunt everyone else that you have one and no one else has.
Wow. Okay.
I hate spoons. The Splash is like,
but the squeaking. It's the squeaking.
It's the squeaking because it's irritating because it's like you play spoons. Once somebody gets a like 4 of a kind, they grab a
spoon.
They grab a dolphin, and everybody else grabs them. So as soon as they grab it, it's like squeak, 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 squeak. It's like,
and everybody's squeaking. Yeah. Actually, I found these at Goodwill back. It's been a couple years. I actually don't know what I did with my copy.
Really?
I got Tim a copy.
Hilarious.
Yeah, I sleeved mine.
Yeah.
So
you need to.
It needs to be laminated.
Right.
You just go to the dog store with the pet store, right? And just get any set of squeaky toys.
That's probably true. You could get
and then play spoons
Otters.
with those.
Yeah.
I can't remember,
Oh,
but
yeah.
But
isn't there wilds in the game too?
I believe there is wilds, and it's kind of like it's
It
been a
helps
while
speed
since
the
I've-
game up, I think. I'm
play
pretty sure you
spoons.
can. It's like just a dolphin card, and you can put it with a 3 of a kind or whatever.
Mhm.
Right. So you
And-
get some
and-
stickers and you put them on some of your playing cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's pretty fast, so easier. You just pass. You pass. I think there's one person that gets to set the speed. They're like pass. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Pretty
true because everybody's passing at the same time.
Right.
Unlike normal spoons, where it's like if I just burn through and you're going slow, everybody else
Yeah.
suffers. This one you can only pass when the start player is passing as well. So everybody
Okay.
has to pass at the same speed.
That's amazing. That's a
Yeah.
great rule.
It is a great rule, and I don't think you're allowed to fluctuate. Like
Yeah.
if you start slow, you have to continue being slow.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
too bad.
I mean, maybe it doesn't say that. But
Yeah, it's been a while. I thought
Yeah.
I thought they got to set the speed like the whole time. Usually it was fast. Like, pass.
it kind of reminds me of Going,
pass.
Going, Gone, where it's like you could count fast or slow. Did you ever
Yeah,
play
that's
that?
so good. Yeah.
Mm.
Like,
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, God.
Closed.
Any
yeah,
honorable
that is
mentions
the best
for
part
you?
of that game. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was really fun.
That's great. Okay, so my honorable mention I've mentioned before, which is Pie Town. And Pie Town is a game that came out by
Oh.
Renegade.
Yeah,
And had
been meaning to try it out.
Yeah, well.
Or
has-
maybe not.
It has great components.
Mm-hmm.
Gorgeous game. The gameplay is not there, and in fact, the designer of the game, you can look on BGG. He's posted on there and said, basically, sorry everybody about this game. Like he
Oh,
admits all the problems that are there. And I have like a couple pages of house rules to fix the game.
Oh wow.
And with the house rules, I do enjoy it, but I basically rewrote the rules to the game.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's an honorable mention because yeah, it's not exactly the same game, is it? But
Right.
But yeah,
It's fixable good.
it's a fixable good.
Yeah.
And the components are fantastic.
All right. So number 1, Eric, what you got?
Number 1 for me is it's a party game. I actually don't know the rating. It's pretty low, I think. It's called Cro-Magnon. So it's kind of like a cranium type of game where you're playing different tasks that you have to do. I got talk like a Cro-Magnon.
Already turning into a code right in front of us.
Right. But one is like drawn with charcoal. One is doing something with this clay. But the best part of it is you get a like a little tablet piece of cardboard that tells you here are the 20 words that you know, and you have to have your team guess something while you can only shout out these a few amount of words that like big sky and it gets pretty funny.
It's
so.
pretty funny.
Yeah. I need to
good
try it out.
choice.
I mean, you told me all about it, and
Yeah.
I really
We-
wish I would have been able to make it that time.
Yeah, we'll have to play it again.
Yeah.
That is a game that needs a higher score. It really does.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
deserves it.
Well, my number 1 is a game we've talked about before, but it's called Clout Fantasy.
Oh yeah.
And I think there's 2 reasons why the game got really bad ratings. One is because it was incredibly expensive. It was like $3 for a pack of 2 poker chips.
Whoa.
Mm.
Yeah, and they were random, and you didn't get to pick the factions that you got. And you only
Oh,
played
wow.
one faction when you build a deck. I bought the game really cheap when it died, so I did not suffer this. The second thing that I think it got bad scores for is that you sit it's like Magic the Gathering with poker chips, but it's dexterity based, so you throw them on a table, and when you get them so close to each other, they have a distance that they can kill off other people, and there's all kinds of special abilities and interactions and stuff. But like I would sit across from Eric and throw my chips, and you would sit where you're at and throw your chips. And so like the game is trivial on the dexterity element.
Mhm.
When we play it, I've
Oh,
house
yeah.
ruled it to where we throw from the same spot on one side of the table.
Mhm.
And so the idea is if you're good at throwing, you can throw stuff on the edges on the opposite side of the table, and it's really hard for people to get stuff to it.
And you have to stick the landing.
Yeah, you have to stick the landing.
Nice.
Yeah, so it actually is really, really fun. I
Yeah.
love this game.
Oh, that sounds
And
like a good
it
one.
just-
And it's been
Yeah.
like 5 years since we played it.
It has been, yeah,
It's been a long
we
time.
played it so much, though. I mean,
Yeah.
I probably played it 45 times, I would say. I mean, we played it One night, I know we played it 15 times in a row.
Oh my gosh.
We were supposed to do a tournament or something.
We are still going to do that.
We
So I have
should.
a
Friday.
booster box
Yeah.
that is sealed. We just need 6 people in about 5 hours.
Oh.
Because you would have to. You have to draft.
For 5 hours?
Well, no, what I mean is like we would play a tournament. So you would
Oh.
draft and it would be Swiss. So you play against every other opponent. And then whoever has the best scores would go on to the next rank and then so on until there's one winner.
I'll let you be the one winner. I don't want to do it for 5 hours.
Oh. Well, I mean, it would be something you schedule and just do just that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, oh man, it's so much fun. You like it, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's
I
got,
liked it.
it's got like I think it might have a slightly bigger score than the other games I've been talking about. 5.58. No.
Oh wow.
That's
really?
not bigger. Yeah.
Yeah, like
No, that's then that is probably, you know, like you said, it's probably rated from how the rules are presented and how you're actually supposed to play it. But how we've played it in the past, it wouldn't be anywhere near a 5.5.
yeah, no, I agree. Although I will say that like these are all the different little chips and stuff. I will say that sitting across from each other does trivialize the dexterity element. I don't like that.
Yeah, and being that close to the table,
Yeah, because what do you do?
like,
Drop your base.
Yeah, right
Drop
here.
it. Then the other person has to throw across, and they're just dropping their stuff, and then you have to
Right.
throw across. It doesn't. There's no dynamic there. It's always the same.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I like the idea of standing on the same spot, like a
Yeah.
throwing point, like darts.
Yeah. On the short end of a long table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did it
Or-
on the one
we did
side
it,
of
like,
a
on
ping
a-
pong table.
Or even a
Card
ping pong
table.
or a card table, but you're not standing right next to it. You're standing a couple feet back.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To where when you throw, your arm doesn't cross the plane of the table.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anyway, Clout Fantasy is my number one.
And I don't typically like any type of games where you're throwing stuff on the table, but this one,
Freaking amazing.
it's pretty good.
So, okay, my number one. You guys, you know that I love games with theme
Mm-hmm.
a lot.
I didn't
And-
know this.
Yeah.
And house rules, apparently.
And house rules.
Like cooperative.
So this is Ed Carter, yeah. So this is one. Also, I'm noticing a pattern. This is another Kickstarter, as was Pie Town. So this Kickstarter,
You're welcome, Kickstarter.
yeah, this one sort of killed itself with too much theme.
Oh,
What?
Okay. Yeah, this was a game called Serpent.
Moby Dick didn't do that?
No.
Or the card game?
Moby Dick pulled it off. Like it totally pulled it off.
Okay.
Right. This one, it's so much theme that the game is practically obscured, and I don't even want to play it the way that they want it to be played.
Gotcha.
This is called Serpent's Tongue. And I was attracted to this game because I'm a linguist, and the game, honest to God, they created their own language for the game.
Oh wow.
Interesting.
That is the level of depth that they went to. And they hired linguists to do this, right?
Made their own Klingon.
Essentially, yeah. And so the lore and the backstory and everything is that deep, but the game itself, what they want you to do, it's a game where you play wizards in the modern world, and you've awakened your power as a ancient wizard, right?
Mhm.
So you have a spell book called a codex, which is, actually a leather-bound thing. The components are the most amazing of any game I've ever seen.
Hmm.
You actually get a leather-bound book with spaces in it, slots to put your spells. And your spells are these massive, like tarot-sized cards with incredible artwork and all kinds of stats and whatnot. It's a collectible card game thing. So you put them in your spell book in their slots, and then as you play the game, you can go through and take them out and use them, and then they're gone. Right. So you show up ready for this wizard conflict with a certain number of spells, and they go together in a certain way. So it's deck building as well.
yeah.
Okay.
That sounds pretty cool so far.
All of that's amazing. Here's what they want you to do when you play the game.
Was this Kickstarter within the last 5 years or so?
No, longer.
Was it? Because I'm starting to remember this. Keep going.
Okay. On the back of the card, when you cast the spell, they want you to hold up the card, and you have to remember the component of the spell, which is spoken. So you say in the language,
In the language, yeah.
the incantation to cast the spell, which you have to memorize because you're holding up the card, and on the back it shows your opponent what that is.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're reading it. They can tell you if you're right or not. And then
It's a memory game.
and they
2013. Yeah, I remember this Kickstarter because I actually thought it looked awesome.
It is awesome, but here's the thing: I'm not gonna stand there and like
Study.
study my spells, and I'm not gonna do a LARP, and wear wizard's
You're
robes.
like,
I'm not gonna do it.
and you got to do like hand motion.
And they have hand motions that go with it. Yes,
wow.
which you also have to memorize.
That's awesome.
And it all like there's like 6 different like sorts of spells. There's like bio spells and plasma spells and whatever, and they have different hand motions for different things. Like they are deep in the lore here. I'm not going to do that. But the game itself actually is really pretty good. If you just ignore all that stuff and just play the game as a game, it works as a game and it's fun. And the problem with it, it's just hated because they never completed their Kickstarter.
Oh.
No.
They came out with a bunch of stuff, but they promised the moon, and like they shot for the moon, and they came up with all this extra stuff, but then they never actually delivered a campaign. It was supposed to be a campaign game where you could take a group of friends, and it was like a D&D style thing where you go and you have a module that you go through, and then you have encounters, and then you're doing this magic stuff, and you're supporting each other and casting spells. It was going to be amazing. They never came up with that aspect of it. The role-playing sort of aspect of this kind of LARP it's the geekiest game. I feel so guilty even talking about it,
Right.
much less playing it, but it could have been like the best game ever, and they really did try, but they really fell short.
Huh.
And I have like the game that you were talking about where it came out and then it went super cheap because it just died. Same thing. I have so many of these cards and so many of these spell books. Like we absolutely could play it. I've got tons of cards. We could put together just anything you want. But the only thing we could do with it basically is fight each other because there's no actual story there.
Right.
And it's so sad. Like number one sort of disappointing guilty pleasure.
I wonder what happened with it. Maybe they ran out of funding, or
they ran out of funding.
Okay.
Absolutely. They really overshot. And the components that they did come up with are great. The cards and the artwork and
maybe
everything.
they priced them. They killed themselves on the cost of everything.
Yeah, the artwork itself is just incredible, and they really went to town, but unfortunately they couldn't sustain it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, cool. That was a fun list.
Yeah.
I'm excited to play some of these games.
Yeah, it's funny because you talk about these games, and when you're focused in on a specific game, when you're describing one or Eric's describing one, it's like, this sounds really fun. It's like, why is this a guilty pleasure?
Let's play this.
So yeah, like Fruit Ninja. Yeah, I think I really like that game.
Yeah, I didn't mind it.
Yeah.
Anything else? Are we done?
Oh, that's it for
I
me.
guess we're done. Let's go play Tanto Cuore.
Yeah. at midnight.